How's it going, guys? So, we are going to be having another conversation about mental health. And today, our advocates are Charlie, Diana, and Brendan. So, I want to open up the floor to Charlie first, and let's talk. What's going on, Charlie?
Hi guys, yeah, hi everyone. How's everyone doing? So a little bit about me. I recently just graduated college last year. Um, and my I guess you can say last 2 years of college um were a little tough. I feel like it's kind of common, especially with people in college, dealing with stress, not only from school, but, trying to find your job and like the uncertainty of what's going to happen after you graduate. Um, and so that kind of hit hard for me, especially my last year. But, I dealt with a lot of anxiety growing up, ever since I was a little kid. I remember, I would start crying if like, my parents would be late to pick me up like 1 minute later than they should. And I was always a very anxious kid. I was, around crowds. I never really liked to be like the new kid or new environments. But within my family, everyone just thought it was like a normal thing, and even I thought it was just like, oh, it's just a personality trait, it's just my personality. And it wasn't until I got, a little bit older, especially in college, where I started, understanding more about mental health and, my mental health really declining. So yeah, and like I said, my last year of college, um, that kind of took a toll, trying to find a job, in my field, and that stress of it all, it really affected me. And it wasn't until like after college that I actually, realized that I needed to get some help. And so that's when I seeked out some help, medical health, and I started seeing a therapist, and I started with some medication, and I've been on it for a while now, and I feel like it's helped me. But even then, it's still, still not perfect. I have my down days. I'm still in therapy. Um, yeah, I feel like it's always a learning experience. Every day, I feel like I'm learning something new about, dealing with mental health, and not only for myself, but to help others as well.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I am the absolute worst when it comes to stress with school. I'm actually going to be taking classes online just while I'm doing this on the side, while I'm doing the school. And my stress levels were never, I was generally never really that stressed. I'm very good at maintaining, like, not being stressed about stuff until it came down to school. It came down to every test because I just, it doesn't matter how prepared I was, I always felt underprepared. And I may do really well on the test, but it's never going to register to me. And as much as I tried to cope like in healthy ways and just try to stay like positive, it was rough. And then you throw in, some depressive episodes, you throw in a lot of anxiety, and then just life is really stressful too, or like harder. Then it's like, all right, well, what's one thing's got to go. It's either got to be me trying to take care of myself or whatever that version is, because at the time I still wasn't taking care of myself the way I should have, or my grades are going to essentially suffer. And like, you have you have to choose yourself when it comes down to that, and you got to choose you. And it I get it. School is just, some people do really well, some people can really get through and do great under pressure, but I just felt just overwhelmed with stress all the time. And yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, um, you don't even like feel like you're stressed out like in the moment, and it's not until like later on where like the stress is too much and overwhelming that it it just turns ugly. And you know, that was something for me. um you know, I always thought of myself as a perfectionist. I wanted to do everything perfect and good and all of that. And so, you know, in the moment I was fine and I felt fine, but it wasn't until this stress got like it was too much for me to handle that I would break.
Mm,
You know, and like I said earlier, like I always thought it was just me, but then when I started talking about it, like, you know, I realized that more people go through the same things, but we just don't talk about it because there's just this stigma of,
mm,
you know, we don't want to seem weak, or, you know, or this competitiveness that, you know, we don't want to let people know that we're not doing okay, like in school or in work. So, um, yeah, it's just, it's very important for me now to like create a safe space for, you know, whether I'm working, you know, I recently just got a new job and I'm very happy with them. So it's just creating a safe space at work, or like if I was back in school, at school with my friends or classmates, to be able to have those discussions, because a lot of the times it's like we're dealing with stuff and we just don't feel comfortable talking about it.
yep. Yep. 100%. All right. Diana.
Well, Joey, good luck with your future studies. And
Mm,
Charlie, thank you so much for just opening up to us and I don't know, just like being okay with talking to us about what you went through and stuff. Um, so where to begin? um, I guess I'll start with now. I am currently, I recently moved out of the States, and it has been quite a transition. It's a very different lifestyle where I had to make adjustments um, for just even just like day-to-day things like going out, um, walking the dog. Like I have to go with somebody or something, not by myself. And so it's led me to just be indoors a lot. And like with this whole COVID thing, it's been pretty tough not like being able to see my friends. Like we still FaceTime and we still connect like that. But there's just I mean, it's like the touch, the just being there with your friends. Kind of really miss that, but you know, got to do what you got to do to be safe, and keep others safe. So, but that's definitely a thing that right now that I would really like to have like more interactions and more social times. Um, because most of the time that I'm like on Zoom, it's just school and we're just focusing on doing that work and not so much like those connections. Um, but yeah, other than that, I guess the things I struggled most was with depression, some anxiety as well, but I would say depression was the one that was like predominant in my life. And it was really hard to be in a household where that wasn't taken very seriously and where like a depressive episode was seen as just being lazy. And like the labeling of, you know, the symptoms of illnesses being like some, you know, negative connotations, and then the internalizing of those messages. So I'm right now in the process of trying to like deprogram these messaging that I've like received about myself, and trying to look at like the good things in life, kind of practice gratitude. That has helped my mental space so much. Like I think that was the first thing I started doing, practicing gratitude every day. 100% recommend it. It's helped me a lot. And also a psychiatrist. I definitely recommend that. And there was an experience where I had to kind of like shop around, where I had to like see what was a good fit and like go on some medication and then get switched onto something else. Try to find what's like the best for my situation. Um, So I guess I'm right now just optimistic about that because I feel like I'm starting to understand these these issues a little bit better and being able to like handle them. And I would love to be able to help anybody else if they have any questions about what this process is like, what it's like reaching out and trying to find a therapist, and how to do that amongst, Corona, COVID. Um, I am more than willing to just answer any questions or just like be part of the journey as well.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, it's trying to find the right match is some people really don't understand how difficult that really can be. And that's like, you have sometimes it just doesn't work. Like not every conversation you have with somebody, you're not going to have a connection. You're not going to be able to open up. You're not going to feel comfortable with being your true self with someone you're not really comfortable talking to. And so, or just like personalities, like don't mix. Like it's sometimes you're talking to someone and they're just like on the exact opposite of your spectrum, where it's just like, this person's just very monotoned, and I don't work well when there's like no emotion that I don't know if you're listening. I don't know if you're happy. I don't know. You just can't tell with your tone. So yeah, definitely that's a journey, but yeah, that's what we're all here to do. And thank you for just kind of wanting to be there, and all of you guys wanting to be someone that truly does care and wants to help people find the way to get the resources and the help that they do need, or if they just want, because there's nothing wrong with needing a therapist. There's nothing wrong with needing a psychologist. Like these, I have two of them. So I mean, sometimes it's okay. It's okay to go in these positions where you open up about your life. Sometimes your therapy sessions are very much just surface level. Very much you're just, how you doing? I'm all right. I don't really know. I don't really know how to explain like what's going on. Like, like you'll talk a little bit back and forth. Maybe you get a little bit better understanding of why you feel like you don't know what's going on. But sometimes it's just like, hey, well, we were able to open up about some stuff. I don't want you to feel like, hey, we didn't make any headway, because you're still being self-aware. You're still working and you're still willing to keep this journey going, which is, it's really hard to do, especially when you're going through a depressive phase, where that laziness that people would say that you're kind of feeling and you're like showing, where it's just like, yeah, I don't want to get out of bed all day. I don't want to do all that other stuff that I had to do. I really don't really want to go hang out with friends, or I don't want to do my homework, or I don't want to go to work, like all this other stuff that we still have to do for the most part. But because you're having a hard time, you may not be able to give 100% or your normal 100%. But now what you're giving, that 100% of yourself in a depressive state, you're giving everything you can. And I'm sorry, it just doesn't look the way that it normally does. But let's just be happy I showed up. Let's be happy that I'm here. Let's be happy that we're still making an effort, because sometimes that is really, we don't know how long it took that person just to like get to work. We don't know how long it took them to actually get ready in the day. Like when I was really into my like depressive phases, I would sometimes get to work like 3 hours early, and I would literally just sit in my car, and I'm just like, you're just sitting there. You're just like, I don't know, man. Like I just can't keep pretending. I can't. This is rough. I'm going through a very rough time, and a lot of those times aren't the times when you're talking to a therapist, or aren't the times when your friends are available to talk. So sometimes you just kind of feel like you are alone. But definitely with this space that we're building, is it's amazing because you don't have to be alone if you don't want to. And it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to want to talk and not really get any input afterwards. If you're just like, hey, I just want to say some things and I just want them to be put out into the universe. And, I just kind of want to just feel heard. I just want to feel heard. That's okay. That's okay, because a lot of times in our lives, that's just not really a possibility. We don't really have that outlet where you can just say whatever you want or whatever's coming to your head or whatever part of your mental health you actually want to get, like, you want to touch up on or talk about. We just can't. A lot of for the longest time, this mental health is just a taboo topic for a lot of people. Then you go into like families and cultures and religions where this just isn't a thing. There's, you have to figure it out, or hey, we're going to talk about it one time and that's going to be it. This, for the most part, mental health is an American problem, and that's 100% not true. We're just now touching the surface on, hey, like, there's a reason why the stats are so high for those that suffer mental illnesses, those that have a tough time kind of getting help when they do, like, realize that they do need it, because it's, the world is just going to continue going in circles and we're going to keep moving on throughout life. But if you don't end up taking care of your mental health, it just gets worse. And it gets very easy to try to mask it, or, we go into negative coping mechanisms, like things that make us numb, whether that be drinking or drugs or whatever the case. And that's not the healthy way to go about it. You're not actually getting to the core of the problem. You're just masking the symptoms. And whatever temporary feeling that you get from doing that stuff, it's just not, you're never going to make any progress if you continue taking one step forward, one step back, one step forward, one step back. You're just staying stagnant. And sometimes it's one step forward, just two steps back. So now you're just not even moving forward anymore. But as soon as you start opening up and you start finding your voice and you start actually talking about the stuff that's actually affecting you, that's where true recovery comes in. That's where true power comes in. That's where we really do start to take control for once in our lives, because our mental health has controlled all of us one point or another. And it's directly affected how you worked, how you hung out with friends, how you saw yourself, how you lived. Because I know I was there. I know that I had to live essentially two lives where, Joey was the funny, like, let's just smile all the time. And it's like, well, if that was really how I was, then why did I go home crying every day? Why did I feel like I was such a problem? Why did these thoughts keep coming to my head? Well, you just keep putting it off, and that's just tough. But yeah, thank you for sharing that, Diana. And Brandon.
So for me, I'm currently a senior in high school, so I have a lot of like dealing with stress right now with school because, well, I just have like a lot of things to do in terms of like applying for college or looking for different colleges, applying for FAFSA, and then also like having to get a driver's license. That's all really like stressful. It's all on my plate, and having, especially right now too, with like the pandemic and everything, having to do school online, and then also having to do work on top of that, like just trying to balance everything can be very stressful, and at times can make you like doubt yourself, like, can I really do all this, or can I do what I want to do because of all the things that I'm facing. And although sometimes I feel like that, I still am hopeful for like being able to complete those things and just school overall. And then I liked what we were talking about earlier about like grades and stuff, because I feel like, or from what I've seen, like in my own school, that's another thing. Whereas like if someone has good grades, people are like, oh, that person is so smart, they have good grades and all that. Whereas good grades don't necessarily mean how good of a person you are in a sense, because I feel like when we look at bad grades, we feel so down about ourselves, but we don't take into considerations the reasons why those grades are bad. Or like we don't take into consideration that maybe it's okay that we don't understand the subject at the current time, that we'll eventually get it, that we'll eventually learn. And we have to be more forgiving of ourselves for those things, because if we don't, then I feel like it just creates a more toxic environment of just like having to uphold standards in school and then also like in society and basically anywhere. And oh, also when you said about like mental health really being talked about as like a taboo or like something that's like, I feel like when a lot of people talk about mental health, it's like this otherworldly thing at times when people talk about it. Or like sometimes people feel, or people who don't really struggle with mental health, like people who don't really struggle with depression or anxiety or any other things like that, they kind of like talk about mental health in a way that it doesn't really affect them or something, or like that it's an issue that they don't have to deal with, when in reality it's something that, well, it happens to everybody, because like mental health is just like the health of your own body. The way that we shower and we wash our face, comb our hair and everything like that is the same way that we have to really take care of our mind and take time to really process our day or process an event that's happening to us, all our responsibilities. And that often gets like pushed away or like not really encouraged of people. It's kind of just like do this, do that, and then do the next thing. And you don't really give time for people to process their own life. And yeah, that's it.
No, that's great. That's it's hard. It's hard when you are focused on, because yeah, we all knew those kids that had really good grades. Very much, very much were known as the smart people. But then when you would like kind of compare yourself to them, it's just like, man, like that doesn't make me a bad person. That doesn't make me less than because I couldn't achieve that right now. Nothing is impossible. You can definitely get good grades with a lot of hard work, with bad mental health kind of part of your life that you're going through. And it's just the amount of effort it would take to do the same amount of homework just is a lot sometimes. It's a lot sometimes. But yeah, I think that when you look at how essentially the school structure is, it's not tailored to everyone. It's school is not a one size fits all, but yet we all, it's everyone's graded on the same thing. You have kids that are really good at taking tests. You have kids that are really good at turning in homework. You have kids that are really good at both. And then you have like kids that are just really creative, just not good in math, or just don't have their subject that's like their one, or school maybe not for them. And it's like you'd think that like everyone's pushing that like, hey, no, you got to go to school, you got to go, you got to graduate, you got to do all this stuff. It's like a lot of these people go into trades after school too, where it's like, okay, maybe they just weren't good with the books, but it's like as soon as you give them anything to do with their hands, it's just like they're a complete different world. Like high school may have been just a very bad time for them because they're just like, I just never really got it. I barely got by. But they're one of the greatest mechanics in the world. They ended up or doing something that was more tailored to what they did like. And I think that that's amazing when people do find their calling, because it's just like you look back at all that time where you would just talk negatively to yourself when you're just like, man, like, because I was never good at school. I never was. It just never was my strong suit. But you know, the best way to describe it is when everyone was focused on learning and going through school, I was mentally just on survival mode, literally just trying to find the courage to keep showing up every single day. And you know, like then you start acting out in class, or you start acting certain ways because, you know, it either brings attention to you, or you want the exact opposite and you just don't want any attention. And it's just a lot to worry about while trying to do something that maybe not even right for you. I mean, but there's always the help that you do need, or that you can get. You know, you can get yourself extra tutors. You surround yourself with people that will like support you through that journey too. That's huge. That's huge, especially when you're talking about like the school and like you being in high school. Like high school was a tough time. High school was a very, very tough time for me. And I couldn't even imagine doing it virtually. I couldn't even imagine doing it. Um, I had a tough time showing up to first period, and my school was like 2 blocks away from me. And, you know, I just would still show up late. I still would just get in trouble all the time. But, you know, it's hard. It's hard when you're fighting an internal battle while trying to make it seem like you're just perfectly fine. Because then now everyone just sees you for what is the result. Oh, your grades might be falling. Lazy. Like, no, I'm just fighting right now. Sorry. And sometimes there's, there's still that small bunch, and school's not for them. That's fine. And it's tough. It's just hard with mental health, but making sure that when we're starting to discuss these topics and start talking about mental health like to its entirety, we're all going to have one version or another to be able to help somebody. We may all be saying the same exact thing to one person, but maybe the way that Brandon says it, or the way that Charlie says it, or Diana says it, it just comes off more fluid to this person that's receiving the words. And we could all just be saying, hey, like, it's okay to not be okay, or hey, I'm here for you. But they might attach to the way that, Brandon talks or I talk. And then so from there, we start building these mental health groups and support systems that people have not had. This has just not been something that we've really been allowed to do. Like, we can talk about some of our mental health, but like nobody wants to ever talk about like the too dark stuff, because you're scared to be judged or scared to be looked at differently. And it's like, no, I mean, some of us are gone through a rough parts in life, and a lot of our advocates, we all speak from our own stories. We're not just sitting here reading books. We're not sitting here telling you like, oh, like this is how you be happy. Like, sometimes it's really not that simple. Sometimes it's not black and white, and sometimes it's not rainbows and unicorns outside. Sometimes you really do need a friend that's going to be there holding the umbrella, because it's just been raining for so long, and you don't see a way of getting out of that storm. But it gets a lot easier when you have someone there, because like a smile can go a long way. reaching out can go a long way. A hug can go a long way. And it's the simple acts of truly caring is what allows us to play an important role in essentially the generations to come. And it's starting here. It's starting now. It starts with us four talking about random phases in our lives or random parts of our mental health or our story or whatever's going on in life and how stressful that is. Like, it's okay. It's okay to talk about this stuff. And I think that that's fantastic because like for me, it was like in my household, it was always okay to, we had open conversations, but it was never talked on that spectrum. I never, you could talk about when you're sad, but let's not talk about the intrusive thoughts that are coming to our heads. You could talk about, oh, like stressful day, but you don't want to talk about how much anxiety you had and you had a panic attack inside the bathroom. And it's hard. It's hard having those conversations in the beginning. And all of us have felt that way too, where it's just like, okay, we're just going to start talking about it. Like, it's okay. Like it's okay to own your story. We all have a story, and sometimes it's just not a nice story for us. Sometimes it's hard to really face when you write it down all on paper, you have to say it and like talk about it. It's hard. Some of us had a really rough go at it, and unfortunately some people have also met some of the worst people in the world, and they've played major roles in how they live or how we live our lives now. And talking about traumas, talking about our mental health, talking about different mental illnesses, it's just, this is the shit that matters. This is the conversation that needs to be had. Because as soon as we start letting our mental health win, or we start letting other people take advantage of our mental state, the less we do see ourselves like as an equal. We don't value our own space. We don't value our own time anymore because we'd much rather see everyone else happy, but never actually helping ourselves. And it's like, you can be responsible for an entire room being happy, but if you're not taking that time to really truly address what's going on with you, I mean, time could let it heal. Time can make it easier to deal with. If you just put it off, it's not coping at that point. It's just not dealing with it. And you can also, it can come back all at once too. And it can keep fighting you and playing different roles into your life where you don't know why you get so frustrated so easily now. You don't know why you can't maintain a relationship. You don't know why you don't allow friends to be close to you. You don't know why you would rather drink at night than actually socialize with other people, or you don't know why you just don't care anymore. And once you have been in a numb phase, it's a dangerous place to be. It's a dangerous place to be when you're so used to so much pain, or you're so used to so much going on in your life. And now you feel nothing. And that's going to be like the most crucial time that it's up to us. It's up to us being that starting domino piece where we start seeing the signs, and even just the people around us, where they're disconnecting, or we're even just ourselves, because we all are still going through our struggles. We're all still having to work on our mental health. We're never truly 100%. And that's what I love about it too, is it is a 24/7 job. Us working on our mental health is 100%. And all day, every day, you don't get to take breaks. As soon as you start taking breaks, well, that's when the bad times start to easily get to roll in. And you guys are amazing. You guys are just like awesome people. Like this is what I truly believe our communities need. We need more Dianas. We need more Charlies. We need more Brandons out there that really just care about people. We need everyone to just, even reaching their hand out for one person. It may be such a small act from us, but it meant the world to that one person. You may have even changed their life, because we don't know how long they've been sitting down there waiting for something to show that they truly cared. And it's just beautiful to me to see so many people all understand that this is so important, because I would do anything for you three. I would do anything to make sure that you guys didn't feel any type of pain ever again, because I just know all too well that sometimes it's just really hard to get through it. And I'm not going anywhere. So, we're going to bump into bad storms. We're going to bump into dark days. And that's where we get to rely on each other too, where we're not pretending to be superheroes. We're humans. Sometimes we need the hand. Sometimes we need to speak up a little bit louder about, hey, like, I'm not talking in past tense about my mental health right now. I'm talking about right now. It's hard, or like, it's just a difficult thing to do, but I literally love every single one of you guys and your openness, and how awesome you guys are, because I'm not going to do anything else in the world, because you guys make every single day worth it. And your guys' outreach, just willing to just be that person. We're setting a spark, and we're setting a precedence of people care out there. And it's a dark world right now. We're going through a lot of stuff right now. But it's us going out of our way to make sure that people do see a little bit of sunlight every now and then. Because, I know I need it sometimes. I know I need to take my breaks sometimes. I know it does get really hard to keep those thoughts away. Like, I wasn't supposed to be here. I wasn't supposed to be here. I had zero intention of living past 23. And then 24 came, and every year you're just like, most likely it's done. Most likely I'm done. And that's because I wasn't talking. That's because I wasn't even acknowledging that I had anything wrong with me. Even after getting my diagnosis, it took me literally 5 years after receiving my bipolar type 1 major depressive anxiety disorder and PTSD. Like, it should have been clear that this little list of, or this paper that had a bunch of words on it that had some medications that were prescribed for them would have given me a hint that, hey, like maybe you should care a little bit. It's just not that easy sometimes. It's just not that easy, but the more we normalize it, the more we know how to help each other, because it's not about just us. It's not about us like just being there for other people, but being able to, give them the right resources. Okay, hey, this is some stuff that helped me out, and they may not have even thought about it. Like, oh, I mean, I didn't even focus on breathing today, like, or I don't really practice being mindful, and it's like, okay, well, like, let's try it. And those little things where you're just showing so much effort with just talking, or like, hey, let's figure this out together. I'm not always going to say the right things. I don't always say the right things. And, I'm human too. And I'm very real with every single person I talk to, where it's like, yeah, it sucks right now. It really does. But you're stronger than that shit. You're stronger. And the reason I know that is because we're having this conversation right now. That shows strength and a willingness to want to get through it. Because I'm not going to give up on you. I'm not going to just sit back and let you not see how amazing of a person you are. Nobody's broken here. And for so long, that was us. That is how we felt, or that's how we were described as. But it's just not the case. It's not true. It doesn't make us any less than because we have certain chemical imbalances or things that have happened to us in our past. Those events changed our lives, but we have an opportunity to not play the victim. We do have that choice, where once you take that power from anyone else on outside, you realize how fucking strong you really are. Because if you can live through today, that means you can definitely live through tomorrow. And if you can live through tomorrow, the next day is just going to be just as easy, or it's going to get a little easier, or, it might get a little bit harder, but for a fact the next day is going to get a little bit easier. You just have to believe it's going to get a little bit easier. I'm going to do a little bit more. I'm going to try a little bit harder to focus on things that I enjoy doing. I need to focus on Joey today. Like, I need to make sure that I'm doing all the things that work for me. If I need a day where I'm just eating my favorite foods, or I'm going to my favorite spots, or I'm going to watch my favorite movie, listen to my favorite music, and a whole day is just going to be my favorite day, because that's what helps me get through a depressive day. Shit, that's 100% okay. And not only are we making other people feel like they matter again, because that's a huge feeling. I gave you all a very huge task, where it's, hey, I want you to go out your way, and I want you to be nice to people. I want you to go out your way and actually care about people. And every single one of you have stepped up to the plate. Life is pretty amazing when we have 4 really amazing people all looking at each other, trying to figure out different ways on how can we keep playing our role into this universe? How can we make the world just a little bit better today? Because once we normalize these conversations, it really does make for a happier tomorrow. Because We don't know what little boy or little girl's listening to us talk today, where maybe they start helping people. Maybe they get the help that they needed. Maybe they work up the courage to reach out to one of us. We just don't know. But we know that we have to keep working. And so I really just want to say thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys more than anything. And we're going to do a lot of things in this world. And we're going to try our hardest to really show the world that people do care. People do really believe that other people matter. And, you know, we live in a selfish world where everyone's so worried about themselves. It's okay to take a few moments out of your day to actually care about another. And so you guys just are awesome. Literally, you guys make every day worth living. And, you know, I have to remind myself that too. You know, I practice what I preach, because sometimes I need to remind Joey that it's just like, nope. There's a reason why I didn't stop at 23. There's a reason why I've had several birthdays since then. And yeah, the last 2 years were, well, the last year and a half was a struggle. Bad, you know, and everything happens for a reason, and everything brings us here for a reason. And when you step into someone's life, even if it's just checking in on them, you're playing a really big role in that person's life. Maybe one conversation, that may be the last time you hear from them. They may not even respond to you when you just reach out, showing that you really did care, or you're there for them. Sometimes that's all we just need to do, is see that somebody actually does care. So I thank you guys, and I appreciate you guys doing this call. We're going to keep doing more and more calls like these. We have a lot more advocates to talk to and kind of keep working forward from there, but we're going to be doing in like the next coming weeks or so, or maybe going into the new year, we're going to start doing like a topic a week, or 2 topics or 3 topics a week, depending on how many people want to start to talk. Because, you know, I can't talk about everything. I can't speak to everything, but I know who can. Those that have lived it, those advocates that are choosing to step up for that community. And so later on down the road, when we start getting topics together, or you guys have ideas about what topics you'd like to talk about, I'll put it out there, and, you know, get a group of you guys to talk. And it's just important that we have all of the conversations that are needed, because it's up to us to break the stigma. It's up to us to make something of this open and safe platform. It's up to us. It's up to every single day we try to figure out one way that we can go our way to be nice. And it doesn't have to always be publicized. It doesn't always have to be recorded, or there doesn't have to be any type of like a reward for you in it. It's, hey, you see that homeless person, you got a few bucks, like throw it to them. Like, no thoughts about it. There's so many times where If I'm going into San Francisco, I'll usually stop at the bank and I'll grab like a few fives and I'll just be like, all right, well, who knows? I don't know who I'm gonna bump into or who I feel like really could use this more than me. And stuff like that. Or going out your way to write a note to the cashier because you saw that she was just having a rough day or he was having a rough day. Or just telling them that, hey, like, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate you working throughout this tough time right now. And I know some people get a little hectic, definitely get a little hectic. And so it's just up to us. And there's no wrong way to do it. We just have to be active. We have to be actively wanting the world to be a little bit better. And little by little, we're going to start doing that. Because I know you guys have already been doing it. You guys have been making people's worlds better. And if you feel like you haven't, you're making mine. You're making mine so much better. And the more you talk about your story, the more you're becoming important to you again, the more you become your biggest cheerleader again. Because that's important. Because sometimes we do really need to hype ourselves up. And that's all right. It's a huge part of our mental health. And that goes back to, just like just talking about gratitude earlier, just talking about self-talk, self-love. That's the big stuff that we got to remind ourselves that shit is important. Sorry, I just was just ranting on for like a solid 20 minutes there, but do you guys have anything else you guys would like to talk about before we kind of call this meeting?
Yeah, just really quick, going back to finding what the best fit for like a therapist or, treatment it is. At least for me, this is like my second try and, going through therapy and I finally found somebody who is not as monotone, like you were saying. Somebody who really understands where I'm coming from and really is there to help me. Something that has helped me a lot through therapy is just, setting, weekly goals of, even as small as it may be, like, I don't know, reaching out to an old friend or I don't know, going to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that feeling of accomplishment. You feel so much better and you feel like you have a purpose, in a sense. So that's helped me a lot. And then like Diana, touched on psychiatry as well. For me, I like it's my second round again, and I feel like I finally found something that it's actually helping me after, trial and error with different medications where I just wasn't feeling okay or I wasn't feeling like they were helping. Um, Now I'm at a place where I'm like, okay, I feel good, you know, and every day I wake up and I'm just grateful to even just get up every morning um, and just walk out to walk my dog or, go to work or something. So that gratitude. So, no, yeah, it's everyone's journey is so different, um, but at the same time, similar, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
Um, Yeah, so I mean, I'm just so grateful to even find a group of people where I can just, be myself and talk about these things because I know this is going to help at least one person out there.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Do you guys have anything else you want to touch on? like I said, we're going to be having a bunch of these conversations, and I just appreciate you guys being open. I appreciate you guys wanting to, what all of us were made to believe, like, oh, looking weak. Like, no, this isn't weakness. This is strength. This is, a lot of times, this is the hardest things you can do, is letting someone really into who we are. Like, really are. Because we can all come off as one person or something, but as soon as you show that you're a whole person, or you're able to be your full self, man, your self-love and your self-importance just goes out the roof, because you're just like, yes, yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and just let it eat at me anymore. I'm not gonna just let it win like it's been doing, or I'm not gonna just keep not helping myself. And that's where it's like amazing. Diana, did you want to say anything?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to touch kind of briefly on just the importance of destigmatizing everything that has to do with mental health. I recently kind of had a little bit of a revelation where even though this wasn't a thing discussed in my home growing up, this was something that in school I've been for many years in groups that of people that are very comfortable talking about these things, and it's like okay to talk about it. So I kind of got used to the idea of like, oh, the world now is more accepting of this. So recently I had a conversation with a psychiatrist, and they were encouraging me not to disclose stuff about like what I'm dealing with, and like the medications and stuff, because he was afraid that I would get like talked about negatively. He was afraid of the backlash of how people would treat me. So it just opened my eyes to like there's so much more, there's so much difference in people's beliefs and experiences and their backgrounds that like form how they view this. So I think there's still a lot more work that needs to be done in this. And so that's why I'm really excited about this group, because clearly there's still people who think that this is something very taboo, and I want to do anything I can to work against that.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. This is, starting a conversation is literally surface. We haven't started getting into how do we teach people, because after we get someone to open up, what happens from there? That's phase one. That's part one of this, your journey, is realizing something's not right. And then, okay, you find your voice. Awesome. Awesome. That's huge. Like, okay, what now? You just tell your story one time and then you're just healed? No. It's, as much as I really wish it worked that way, it doesn't. But it gets a little easier to get through it, little by little. And we start building more tools in our mental health toolkit to get us through certain hard parts, or helping others get through certain hard parts. And the more we do this, the more we engulf ourselves in positive mindsets and wanting to actually like take care of ourselves on top of helping others. That toolkit gets really big, and you start being able to help a lot of people the more and more you do this, because you're essentially learning how to problem solve, where, hey, you may not have all the answers, but a really good place to start looking. And boom, you're able to be that person, that safe space. And that's what we're doing here, because it's starting with the conversations, but after that, teaching people how to cope with certain mental illnesses and parts of their mental health. And then, having your support system know how to help you properly. They may not be going through the mental illnesses or the negative mental health state you're in right now, but teaching them how to be a proper support, how to really be there for you is important too. It's not just the person going through it, it's the people around them. We need to stop pretending like it's okay to just stand around somebody as they're drowning. It doesn't matter if you have all the right answers, but if you keep putting your hand out there, you might be able to save them and give them a good opportunity to save themselves too, because sometimes we just need that reminder. Sometimes people just need that reminder that we got 4 people right here that truly do care. But I once again just want to say thank you guys for coming to the call today. And if you guys have any questions or anything comes up, feel free to shoot me a message. I'm really excited to see what is to come from Charlie, Diana, and Brandon, and your journeys on your own mental health journeys and how you help others. I think it's great. I think it's great because there's no wrong way to do it. And as long as we're all doing something, that's a whole lot more than a lot of people are. Because we're choosing to not be selfish. We're choosing to actually care about others. And I know that you guys were one of the greatest decisions in my life to make that phone call and actually talk with every single one of you guys. Because, like I said, you guys have made my life better. And even if it was just like a quick 5-minute conversation or 20, 30-minute conversation, you guys chose to do something. You guys chose to take a stand against this stigma and allowing ourselves to keep suffering and wanting to be so much more than what has been there for us, historically speaking. And we just all know from a place of experience of what we all needed when we needed it most. Well, now we can be that for every single one, or now we can be that for someone else, for being that for groups of people that are going to really believe you when you look at them and you say, like, please keep fighting. Please. I don't care what we have to do. I don't care how long we have to talk on the phone. I don't care how long you need me to sit at your door as you're just having a hard day. Like, I'll be there. There should be no doubt in anyone's mind, because it's true. You know, we are willing to do anything and everything to make sure that people do get the help that they need. And if it's just a really good friend, we got 4 professional friends in here. And I wouldn't have it any other way. So I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to the many conversations we're going to have after this. And I thank you, everyone that's watching this video as well. We got some really, really special people in this organization that are playing their parts. And if you feel like you'd like to talk more with Diana, Charlie, or Brandon, I'm going to tag them on the video as well. So feel free to reach out. Trust me, there's some good ones out there. And I look forward to the next time we speak. So have a good night, guys, and I will talk to all of you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, bye.
Have a good night too.
Thank you.
All right, guys.